stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming and those watching. Mayor's report. The only thing I just want to say, you know, we are really blessed with the storms the other night. We didn't have any incident. It kind of skipped around us. But in your thoughts and prayers, keep all the people in Kentucky, Tennessee, and all those other states that have been impacted by this. And just, again, count your blessings that we went through that without any problems. The other thing is, I'll say it now, so instead of at the end of the meeting, I want to wish everybody, I hope everybody has a very Merry Christmas. And because this will be the only meeting we have this month, we won't have one towards the end of the month. So that's all I really have. City Administrator?
Yes, I can comment on the sales tax deposits. We've got the numbers in now for the first 6 months of the fiscal year, and we are at an increase of 14% over last year. And lodging taxes, even much larger than that. Lodging taxes way up. So those are great numbers. I attended via Zoom the MRPC meeting again last Thursday. They had a representative from the Missouri Department of Economic Development. They were throwing out a whole lot of statistics and things, but I will just give you a couple of noteworthy ones maybe. They've said that Missouri has recovered 79% of the jobs that were lost in March and April of 2020. And the unemployment rate has fallen to 3.7%, when nationally it's 4.2%. And last year this time it was 5% for Missouri. And so it's getting close to the pre-pandemic level, which was actually 3.6. Interestingly enough, the labor force participation rate is 63.1%, and it's actually been slowly trending downward since July. So that's kind of interesting. The other thing that they were talking about is, again, the American Rescue Plan Act funds. And the state is getting $2.6 billion, and they are right now in the process of trying to decide where to put it in the state budget, that then cities can then access, and municipalities and counties for different things. So we know that we can use it for the water and the wastewater, which we've been talking about. The biggest question that came up among the group at MRPC was a really great question, and that was some clarification on whether it can be used for roads and bridges, because that would open up a whole new avenue of funds. So again, they're setting it up like a grant. Remember, we're getting our original tranches in 2 tranches from the government already. It was close to $400,000, and then we have the availability of using that money as a matching portion of a grant to get more money from the state. So I think we can do some things this year, so it'll be good. They're also putting a lot more money available for the tourism industry again, and some of those things will be through competitive and non-competitive grants. And they are trying to push out another webinar right before Christmas with even some more details. I came up with some information this week. Alderman Schumer had thrown out the idea a few months ago about electric charging stations for cars, and I told you I'd kind of keep my radar out for that. The Federal Highway Administration issued some information regarding the future funding for electric car charging stations program. Funds will be given to the states as a result of the recently passed infrastructure bill. And to quote them, they said to strategically deploy EV charging infrastructure and to establish an interconnected network to establish access and reliability. So realistically, in our region, the first city they're looking at is Rolla, because of its population and its location. So that's where they're kind of going to do their trial run, I guess, is in Rolla, but I will keep my feelers out on that. The Tree Commission to both congratulate them and thank them for all their efforts in securing another trim grant this year. So I think we've talked about this a little bit, but unfortunately there's going to be 2 trees coming down out of the campgrounds that need to come down, and one in the upper park and some at the riverfront. So this grant will be for taking those down and replacing those and planting some additional ones. And the match this year is going to be, I think, all covered by just in-kind work from the city rather than actual money. The nature of the work this year is stuff that our crews can do in-house, and thereby that works as our match. And I notified all of you of information on the natural gas prices, but maybe just for the listening public, I'll mention it again, that our broker sent out a memo last week stating that a combination of the return of production levels and this very mild start to our winter, accompanied with a mild forecast for the remaining winter, is driving down the prices. And so hopefully that will ease the pain on the utility bills. And yes, I will just mention that the way the holiday falls this year, that the city offices will be closed on Friday the 24th and Monday the 27th. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to public comments. Mr. Kerber.
I want to thank everyone for allowing me to talk tonight. I want to talk about the muskrat, and I'm going to talk from this letter that I've sent out to everyone. So it reads as such: I see that the November 30th Board of Aldermen meeting you discussed giving the muskrat to the Muskrat Society. I am surprised to hear this because of the great opportunity the city of Hermann has to build a nationally recognized museum and boathouse around this keelboat. I believe Mayor Cox is concerned about the liability incurred in ownership of this boat. Because the boat and trailer are owned by the city of Hermann, the boat is covered under the MIRMA umbrella policy at no incremental cost to the city, as long as it is inside the city limits, or so I believe. When the boat is outside the city limits and in transit, it is covered by the insurance of the truck owner hauling the boat and the trailer. When the boat reaches a destination such as the Missouri Department of Conservation or the State Fairgrounds, it is covered by those organizations. When in storage, it is locked up with no possible access. Hermann officials may think that we take the muskrat outside the city limits all the time, but we have only made 2 trips this past year. There is no uncovered liability pertaining to the city's ownership of the muskrat keelboat. We are not expecting the city of Hermann to pay for insurance coverage on the keelboat when it is outside the city. The society pays for that ourselves. There are many advantages to both the city and the Muskrat Society in having the city maintain ownership of the muskrat. One is that MIRMA insurance covers the boat when it is inside the city limits. Another is the attention and publicity the boat garners for the city of Hermann whenever it is exhibited in these high visibility, high traffic venues. The Muskrat and Society's displays will have been viewed by well over 200,000 people in 2021. Additionally, some of the grants in which we intend to apply are more easily obtained if we are associated with the city or other government authority. Lastly, when the boathouse and museum are built, they will be another big draw for Hermann tourism, and their events will attract visitors from all over the country. Why the urgency to make this decision, and why wasn't the Muskrat Society informed about it? I can't answer those. There is ample time for you to consider these points, as the muskrat will not be traveling until April 2022. I suggest that you postpone any decision on this matter until we have had time to discuss our plans and make suitable alternative arrangements if necessary. The Muskrat Society is not prepared to sign any agreements at this time. We can meet with the appropriate city personnel at your convenience for further discussions. Dr. Robert Kerr, President of the Muskrat Society. So, do you have any questions about anything that's in here, or any questions about the boat in general? If you
Well, I got a couple.
Okay.
One, when this was started, this was set up as a membership deal, fundraisers and everything to pay for all this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the city footing the bill for any of that. That's got more to do with this than anything with liability, you guys moving around. And two, to say you didn't know anything about this. You had a meeting with the city administrator right across the hall here a couple of weeks ago and discussed all this.
Wasn't what, this was not the system, what was discussed was that you were thinking about this. There was no mention made that at the next meeting there'll be a resolution.
Yeah, but you
for
said
us.
you had no idea about it. That's not true.
Okay, I
You
had
did
an
know
idea,
about
it was discussed, but this was not discussed. It was not, I had no idea you were gonna have a resolution for this. Now, what was the first part about it being funded?
What? When I was part of the Muskrat Society when this started, and you were gonna sell memberships to the Muskrat Society, and that would help pay for this fundraisers and everything for this boat. The problem is it keeps expanding, Bob. Now it's going into a museum, a whole complex and everything, and I don't know what city department would be responsible for
Well,
anything like
a
that.
good idea would be to talk to us, and we would be happy to tell you all about that. I'm not sure, you're talking 4 or 5 years down the line, but what we need to do now is to have a pavilion of some sort, someplace to put the boat. And we are funded through donations, memberships, and grants.
Well, why does
Not by
the
the
city need to
city.
be involved in
The
that?
city doesn't need, except it's, as I mentioned here, it's better for us if we have an association. That doesn't mean you have to own it. But we have some association, I'm in the process now of checking with our grants administrator to find out what that means. And until we have, I would think, we should get together and figure this out and talk about it before we just have a resolution.
The other issue is, okay, let's say we table this and you carry it forward, and then you get a grant and the city's involved, and then 3 years down the road, the city would like to desire to not be a part of this. Well, once we're involved with a grant, and you correct me if I'm wrong, we are involved with it, and if the grant money was given to the city to do something with the muskrat, it's kind of hard for us to cut the ties. Am I correct, or?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's, I think that's right, but
well,
before we could.
so what I'm saying is, whether it's us or somebody else, you know, this becomes a headache down the road. It may not be so easy to get,
Well, it won't,
relinquish our involvement.
but, Mr. Mayor, if we're gonna form an association or have a grant that requires an association with the city, you're gonna have to know about that way ahead of time and be able to stop it. That would seem to me to be more important in an agreement form than what we're talking about here, which is a resolution. I'm not saying this isn't a good idea, I'm just saying we haven't had time to figure it all out yet. So I suggest that we take the time for all of us to figure out what is really involved with this and how it could possibly impact the city.
Yeah, I think, you know, we've had discussions about it, and I just think everybody was on the same page that, you know, the city should relinquish the ownership and give it to the society.
What do we do with the caboose? We don't own that.
The city owns the caboose. The caboose was given to us by, or $1, wasn't it? $1 by Missouri Pacific.
Okay. And then who all talked about this ahead of time? I didn't know anything about any of this until our last meeting.
Right, we discussed it at the last meeting, right?
Yeah.
I'm not ready to make a motion of any kind other than to table it until we all can figure out what's what.
Well, there's nothing, I mean, that's fine, but I mean, there's not much, we're not throwing them out of town, we're just
No.
giving them the title to the boat, basically. I mean, it's just saying they own it. I mean, that's,
I want to know
All
more
this is-
details. I want to know what kind of agreement we signed before and what the plan is and
There's
what the
several
difference is
elements.
between an association and owning it. I want to know all that stuff.
No, we don't know the answer to that yet, but we're in the process of finding all that out. So,
Several elements that brought my attention. I, like Susan, when it was brought up, to write up a resolution is the first I heard of. There's been no discussion with me as far as the Muskrat Society, other than ask to join it. But it said the main reason was a liability that the city had for the muskrat keelboat. Well, from what Mr. Korber said, the liabilities are very slim to nil, and probably less on that than we have on the caboose, because that is city, as well as any other building that the city owns. And I would think that we should postpone this till January the 10th, the 2022 meeting, to gather the facts and have a discussion to find out where is the liabilities and what would the city be liable for.
Well, one thing, I know he says Murma will cover this and so forth, okay. And it's hypothetical, you're going down, Murma's gonna cover while you're traveling, is that what you're telling me?
While we're in the city.
While you're in the city.
Now, if
So
we
you're
go out,
pulling this to, let's say, the state fair.
right,
The muskrat comes loose and hits a car head on and kills 6 people.
that's the,
Hypothetical. So, the insurance is supposed to cover that, but personal lawsuits against the city could be millions and millions of dollars. Yeah. I mean, the chances of that happening are very slim, don't
no, but
misunderstand.
it is.
I'm just saying.
It is, well, it is slim, Dave.
No,
But
it's very
It's
slim.
there, but still, that's covered by the insurance of the truck owner. The liability, if that thing comes loose and hits a house or a car or something like that, or a person, that's covered by the liability of the truck owner. And if you tell us what you want those limits to be, we can probably raise them up to, at our cost, to whatever Murma's limits are, that they cover you. Same as if you're driving to Jefferson City for a city meeting. Your car is really covered by Murma, maybe, I don't know, but it's certainly covered by your insurance on your car or your truck, or if you're hauling a trailer on city, for the city, it's covered. And that's how ours is. Ours is covered. If you want 2 million instead of 1 million, or whatever it is, we just tell us that, and we can work on that. But we'll pay for that. You don't need to pay for that. That's our intention is not to cause the city any expense or create an undue liability for the city. So, an association may not require ownership, is what I'm saying. But I don't think we're going to be able to get all these answers by the 1st or even the end of January. It might take a little longer. And it doesn't matter because it's not going anywhere until the end of April anyway. It's locked up. So let's get our ducks in a row and get the answers, and then we'll work something out. I'm not saying we have to own it. I'm just saying let's get it all out on the table. There's a lot we don't know.
The other side of this that I look at as a citizen of Hermann is the keel boat was given to the city with the intent of being a museum down the road.
With whose intent?
Well,
Ours.
the city of Hermann at that time. Because Mr. Culver was the mayor and he represents the city of Hermann, and we as the Board of Aldermen discussed that. But I'm looking at the picture is if the city takes a stance that, to me it says the city doesn't want anything else donated to us. We don't want that liability. So let's push it over to another society as the caboose was. I think the caboose has equal, if not more, liability than what the keel boat would have. If we do it for one, we need to do it for all. You know, that Captain Hackman's, I think Historic Hermann owns that. Is there a liability when tourisms go up there? What insurance covers that? Is that covered by Myrna too?
We own that, and it's covered
So-
under Vermont.
Is there a liability attached to that, utilities and other costs that's what, I'm just
So
getting
I
at
guess,
this level.
let me take the blame for all of this. I had a conversation, Dr. Kerber came to speak to me about it, and to tell me where things were at, which I thought was very, very nice of him to bring that information to me. But I told him directly to his face, I said, I don't think the city needs to be in the boat business or the museum business. We have enough things going on that demand our money and our time and our attention. And so a museum, to me, you're going to build another structure. And so, you know, it's not just about the boat. They want to build a museum, another building. And so that ties the city down to potentially much higher insurance fees for, you know, a boat liability and a building liability. And my question was, which I'd like to know, generally in my experience, when the city gets money for a grant or something, just like you expressed, we're tied to that project for some duration of time. We can't get a bunch of grant money for something and then turn around and go, oh, well, thank you, now we're gonna give it away. So my point to you guys at the last meeting was, decide if you're in or out.
Well,
You know?
if we build a museum, a structure, we're gonna have to carry insurance on that if Myrma, some type of additional insurance on that. And it wouldn't be for the city necessarily. If you're covered anyway with MERM insurance, then we would probably have a rider that says if it becomes in an aggregate to exceed that amount, then we will cover that and get a rider policy to cover that. Just like we were gonna do when the motorcycle event wanted to have their event down here at Centennial Park. We had to foot the bill for insurance for that. But I don't want you to foot the bill for anything, and I don't want you to put any undue liability. What we talked about was the fact that I was bringing you up to date, and that's the first I even heard that the city wanted us to take ownership. But let me say what I've said already twice. We may not have to, we may be able to take ownership and still meet an association. You could, maybe it's just an endorsement, that we endorse their efforts to raise money for this.
I think the city would be willing to do
Well,
that.
I know, but we have to talk about that. I mean, that's not what I'm saying. We don't know that yet. But I think that might be the case. So let's find out before we vote on this thing. Give us a month or more to work on this, because we don't do these things in our time frame. They happen on the other person's time frame. And if we can't get everybody together by the 10th or whatever it is of January, then we won't be prepared then. So give us enough time to get this all done, and we'll have a meeting. We'll talk to the city administrator, make sure she's okay with this, and the city attorney and the mayor. And we'll get it worked out so that everybody is happy.
Instead of that first meeting in January, let's move it to the second meeting in January.
That works.
January the 24th.
Is that
Okay, January 24th.
That's fair.
Is that agreeable with everyone?
Fine with me?
So do we need to do the resolution? When we do the resolution, say we're gonna table it until January 24th?
We'll postpone it.
Tabling is the wrong term, we learned at that one.
Okay, yeah.
That can be postponed.
Wrong terminology again.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you.
Continued, I guess is the word. Continued. Okay, that's the only public comment we had. We'll move on to ordinances.
All right, the first, which is on for second reading, is bill number 2021-48, an ordinance authorizing the reclassification of lots owned by VFW Post 4182 at 108 State Highway 100 West from R1 Single Family Residential to A1 Agricultural and C1 General Commercial.
I move 2021-48, second reading.
I would like to inflect my conflict of interest before we vote.
Second? Or is there any discussion before? Second. Second. Motion been made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Who abstains?
Next, for first reading, is bill number 2021-49, an ordinance to approve an agreement by and between the City of Hermann, Missouri and Simple View LLC to provide lodging referral technology for the city's website.
Any discussion?
I move bill 2021-49, first reading.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Since we're not having a second meeting in December, do we need to read this again?
Thank you. If you could do that for the next two, if you would be so inclined, that helps us to keep a good, clean record ending the year and starting bill numbers over.
Yes, sir. So bill number 2021-49 for second reading, an ordinance to approve an agreement by and between the City of Hermann, Missouri and Simple View LLC to provide lodging referral technology for the city's website.
I move to approve bill number 2021-49.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Next, for first reading, bill number 2021-50, an ordinance to approve a contract by and between the City of Hermann, Missouri and the Lamar Companies for an outdoor advertising billboard.
I move to approve bill 2021-50.
Motion been made. Second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Second read.
Bill number 2021-50 for second reading, an ordinance to approve a contract by and between the City of Hermann, Missouri and the Lamar Companies for an outdoor advertising billboard.
I move 2021-50 second read.
Motion made, second.
I'll second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Resolution, then we just skip the resolution, or? what's
Yeah,
it?
just, I think you announced, we'll just put this on the agenda for January 24th.
Okay. Okay. We will move on to old business. Anyone have old business? I guess this would fall under old business, since we had the workshop on the food trucks. And I'm just putting this out there for discussion. One of the things that, if we alter the ordinances that we have now that apply to the food trucks, I think what we need to do is, and this is just my recommendations, okay, is any of the food trucks that come to Hermann would have to get a business license, just like any other business. It makes no difference whether they're here once, twice, 6, 12 times. They also has to provide us with affidavits or the paperwork that proves that they are paying sales tax to the city of Hermann for the sales that they have while they are here in Hermann. I think it's only fair to the city and fair to the other businesses that they're doing the same thing. And then if anybody else has any other recommendations, you know, I thought maybe we should discuss it soon instead of waiting until a month from now and talk about it. So, you know, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, those are both good items. I mean, they should, I know Jim's always big on the health department, making sure they're inspected by them.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is something we would have to check into, but it seems to me that if they're already in that business, they gotta have that covered.
Well,
Will have to be inspected.
Yeah, I wouldn't take it for granted.
But I would think,
Yeah.
The only thing I'd add, like David said, yes, if they're a mobile food service, I'm not gonna say food truck, 'cause we have some that serve food out of mobile trailers pulled by motorized vehicles.
Classification food truck trailers, like.
Yeah. But yes, they would need a county health department inspection, which goes through Greg Lara right now.
Right.
Then I think, and this data came from what Stacy handed out, is that the food trucks would have to have liability insurance to keep the city from harm in case of food poisoning or an accident upon, whether it's private or public property. And if it's on private property, that private property landowner also should have liability insurance to keep the city harm-free. Also, that the food trucks need to provide their own trash receptacles.
Correct.
If it's on private property or public, that the private property owner should have a dumpster on that lot to allow the food trucks to place their bag trash in. Food trucks is to keep and maintain trash-free the area they're assigned. They should provide public restrooms by either the food truck or the property owner at their expense. The city shouldn't have to provide porta potties. And collect all state, city, county, and sales tax. And they must register with the city on the date, time, and location they will be in town. Kind of, we do most of that now, but not all the way.
Right.
And other than that, well, we could add in there, I handwrote some things. During the festival events, we could still apply our festival ordinance. There would be additional $15 for the festival permit.
I would like to see, people like food trucks. I think we need to have an area for food trucks other than just private property. I mean, Riverfront Park, there's bathrooms there, there's hand washing there, there's trash cans there, or the city park. I think we need to have a public location where food trucks can come and do their business too. That's not by all the restaurants.
You mean opposed to,
If they want to have one at private property, but I really think we need a location to have them in Hermann.
As the city of Washington does have a designated area for food trucks only, that they should set up in that area.
I mean, Riverfront Park has a pavilion, it has bathrooms, there's water, there's trash.
but that would be instead of allowing them on public property?
I
Or
think we
rather,
have
instead of
to.
allowing them on private property, I'm sorry, that's
I
state.
think we have to allow them on private.
Well, I
property.
guess I didn't know if you were offering an alternative to having them on.
I don't think there is no alternative.
Well, I
Is
didn't
there?
think so either, but I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that.
I just think we ought to have.
But anybody else
location.
wants to bring them in,
Yeah.
goes there.
And they
They
have to
still
follow
follow the
all
same
8 or
procedure.
10 of these steps.
Whether public or private.
Well, you know, like a lot of cities and communities do, you know, so it doesn't coincide with the other festivals and that, you have a food truck weekend, like you say, out to City Park or somewhere that doesn't affect anybody else. And, you know, people come, they like it, so, but that's, anyway, I think that's good that we're, you know,
I canvassed a lot of citizens in both wards, and I got a lot of compliments on the food trucks. They liked them. But then I brought up some things like the business license.
no, I think it needs to be a fair playing field, I guess is what I'm saying, you know, it's got to be fair, you know, and do the best we can to make that happen, that's all I'm saying.
Do you get all that down, Corey?
The only one thing, if we do draw like underneath food trucks, there again, trailers or setups, I would like to mention in there, I think that we do need exemptions in there for fraternal civic organizations within our community, i.e. the VFW, the Eagles, the Knights of Columbus.
Lions with their kettle corn.
We're not kicking off for
No,
trouble.
but if we have to draw an ordinance of it, I'd like to have it specified, a non-for-profit organization, the Scouts or the American Legion would be exempt from any expense focused on food trucks or festival cooking. I think that's what DHSS refers to. They have a different standard that they inspect them.
Does that need to be a whole separate ordinance, do you recommend, or that we're talking about here? Or can we add that to something that's
When
already?
you talk about all the food truck regulation you're talking about, or are you talking about just the nonprofit stuff?
No, the food truck regulation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can put a draft together and put it on for just review, old business if you want, at the next meeting.
To review it before we. vote on it.
Review, not vote.
Right.
Review.
Review it.
Right, so it won't be passed for at least 3 more meetings.
Yeah, that's
We
fine.
can get plenty of.
Next year.
Yeah.
Next year, yeah.
2022.
Okay, any other input?
No, maybe we'll think of stuff when we review.
Well, that's what I'm saying, yeah. Okay. I think that's a step in the right direction. Thank you, everybody. Okay, any other old business?
Oh, the Central Electric Power Line.
Yeah,
Making any headway there?
yeah, we received all the easements and stuff.
Yeah, all the title work is done. Right now, I'm kind of going back and forth with Mike Bax from Central on what they will or will not have to have for an easement width, and what they will allow that's existing in their easement, and what will be not allowed to be added later. So like, for example, down the First Street corridor, any balconies that go above city property now will be basically grandfathered, but no one will be able to build anything new under that power line. Because all those, on First Street, all of those balconies actually extend onto city property. They're not, part of the,
Are there any balconies on the north side of First Street?
do what?
Are there any balconies on the north side of First Street?
I think maybe above Berliner's, the top of that might be one. And other than that, I think Denver Lineberger has a.
That's a
fake
facade
one.
though,
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah, that's not even a real one.
So yeah, there's nothing too major down there. And then I've got to get with More Gear and a couple other properties in the industrial park and kind of talk about the setbacks with them. But other than that, I mean, the heavy lifting part of it, I think, is pretty well done on the engineering side. Now it's just trying to get the easements figured out and squared away with landowners.
Yeah, and I think.
Friday night, those poles were heavy on my mind.
And none of them failed. We got pretty lucky. We didn't have an average one.
And it was windy.
Yeah, it was real windy.
I called dispatch as soon as it went through and they said, no, nothing's reported.
We didn't have an average one, so.
Very good. Any other? Let's move to new business. Under new business, Public Works Director, please.
I have new business though.
Wait,
Or wait till him, okay.
Yes, please.
Sorry, Jess.
You're fine.
Basically, the crawler that the city owns, it broke down, the clutches are out of it, second and fourth gear I think are out. We need to get it repaired if we're gonna keep it. I would recommend that we keep it. It's not real valuable to sell. From what I've watched them sell for, I'm gonna guess it's a $20,000 machine in running order. But we don't use it enough to justify buying a new machine. So this machine, when it's operating, it operates well, it does what we need it to, but the clutches are out of it. So we had Herb come and get it, Herb Equipment, and they kind of tore into it a little bit and gave us an estimate on cost. It's going to be $4,500 for labor and $2,500 for parts. And then obviously we'll have hauling fees on top of that to get it back here when it's done. I would recommend we go ahead and go with that. They're the only John Deere heavy equipment dealer in the area, so it's something that we need.
So you're under 10,000.
Yeah, we're under 10 grand on it. And like I say, it's an estimate because it's mechanical, so they may tear into it real deep and find something else, and if we have to halt work on that, we will, and I'll come back to you guys with it.
Well, equipment breaks.
Yeah, and this is an old machine, so it's been around since the city still owned the landfill. So.
What all do you do with it?
Well, we've built roads with it. Right now they're building a road to get to some property at the industrial park. So all the spoils that we dig up around town, we take, to places we own that need filled in or whatever, pushing that stuff. If we get real nasty sand down at, the riverfront or something, you can push a lot more with that than you can with a backhoe or the front end loader or anything like that. So, it's basically, like if we had to buy a new one, there's no way we could justify it. But we own this thing already, and when we bought it initially, we needed it because we owned a landfill. Now, I can't say that I could justify buying a new machine, but this one is in such good condition that it's worth fixing. I mean, it's a usable piece of equipment when it's functional, so.
So do we need to make a motion?
So if I could, so the reason we're kind of bringing this to you is, for one, it's over the amount we put in the budget. It's an expensive repair. So it's more than the $5,000 that I can approve as a city administrator. And we need to get your approval to waive the bidding process. And we can do that according to our policy if we have a unique enough of a circumstance. And I think Jesse explained that that's the only place really that can work on it in the post. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I mean, there may be other places, but they're not John Deere. They're not John Deere dealerships, I guess you'd say. So this is the equivalent of taking a Ford to Hermann Ford. And the other side of that is, we had them haul it to see what was actually wrong, because if it was going to be something catastrophic and it was going to be a $15,000 or $20,000 repair, obviously we're not going to fix it.
Right.
So it's already there. We've already paid the hauling fee to get it to them. So, it just makes sense to me. It's there. They're the people that fix John Deere equipment. Have them make the repairs and get it back.
Well, I will move to make the repairs based on the Public Works Director's recommendation.
And waive the bidding process.
Thank you.
Motion's been made, second.
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
So carried.
Todd will be a happy man.
Thank you. You have new business?
Yes. Last Friday, they had Government Day, Government Relations Day out at the high school. Jim Shermer and Dave Fairber and I attended. And I think that if we see our school district staff and our kids, we really need to give them a pat on the back, because they've done a lot with the pandemic. There's been a lot they've had to deal with. And even though there are a lot of struggles, there are a lot of successes with our kids and our staff. And I think that if we see them, we need to recognize that, because that's important for our youth.
It's amazing our children are even being educated
Yes.
during what's been going on, what they've had to go through. You have teachers that are basically teaching the same class twice. They have to teach the kids that are in school, and they have to teach the kids that are home. It's, and they're doing it. They have adapted amazingly. What did he say, that a child in third grade now has no idea?
A second grader has no idea what a normal school year is like, because they were in kindergarten and first grade and did not have normal school years. And that's major.
And the teachers are the same way. The second year and third year teacher has never taught a regular school year. And that alone is frustrating, especially being new, and then with the COVID to 6 foot and everything else, it's a total different world.
And mentally too, a lot of our students, our kids are struggling, and we need to recognize nationwide, really, that mental health is important for all of us, from little bitty kids all the way up to us adults, so.
It was a good learning experience, and
There were state reps there, it was representatives for them there, it was a very good morning.
the organization, when it was
Future
FCCLA,
career,
they
Kids are
Future
great,
America.
got a neat organization that they're interested in ROI, where they make cookies and resell them through different merchants, so they know their cost elements and their profit margin, so that's a good education that everybody needs.
And they do service work for our community, things to help us, so.
They also are the ones that do the veterans breakfast also.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
And the little food pantry? Yeah, that's another
they
one.
help with that, yes.
Yeah, they also had a meeting on the 8th that I went to, not as formal as that one, and he explained a lot of that at that meeting also. I couldn't
go
make the
Bearcats.
10th one, but anyway, yeah. And what did they say, like, go Bearcats? I mean, look
They
at,
say
look at
go
what these
Bearcats.
kids have, look at what these kids have accomplished this year in the
Yes.
sports industry, you know.
Yes.
Okay, moving on, any other new business? Fair? Nope. Okay, we'll move on to motions. Have a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Invoices for payment.
I move we pay the bill.
Motion's been made to pay the bills, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
So carried. Liquor license renewals. Everybody's had a chance to read all the renewals, any questions?
Move to approve.
Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Liquor license for the Founders District Management Company doing business as Alpenhorn Kitchen and Buyer Garten by David Messner, full liquor license with Sunday sales at 179 East Highway 100.
I move to approve this license.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? License approved. Outdoor seating permit renewal for B&R LLC doing business as Doxy Slush, Nicholas, and Brittany Renfro, 222 East First Street.
I move to approve their license.
Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Special event application for the City of Hermann Tourism Department Santa Rides Rails event, Amtrak Station, refreshments, photos with Santa on December 22nd, 2021. If everybody don't know what that is, they're gonna take the kids to Washington and let them ride on the train back to Hermann. with
I
Santa.
move to approve and I'm
Second.
going, so let's go people, take your grandkids and
Motion.
kids.
Motion's been made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
So carried. Special event application for Go St. Louis race finish line activities at the amphitheater June 11th, 2022.
Motion.
Oh, you know what, I'm so sorry. Can we postpone that one? I got the cart before the horse, it needs to go to the park board first.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that, we'll catch it next time.
Postpone. Okay. No reports, we have to go into closed session. Do I have a motion for that?
I move to go into closed session for the purpose of dealing with matters relating to hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting employees pursuant to section 610.0213 revised statutes of Missouri.
Second.
Motion made and second.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
We are now in closed session. Thank you everyone for coming. Again, Merry Christmas.
Take a roll